I'm going to be going a little bit in depth as to how I applied and how I got into nursing school. I do have a video covering a little bit about it, and I will link it down below. So the other video that I did, like I said, I'll link it down below, and that's just things to consider when applying to nursing school. But this video is going to tell you about how I started, what path I decided to take, well, what I decided to avoid, and things like that. So if you guys want to know about how I began my journey and how I got into nursing school, go ahead and keep watching. So when I first realized that I wanted to be a nurse, it was when I had graduated from high school and I started college at our local community college. I do live in Southern California, by the way, in San Diego area. As soon as I graduated high school, I got an internship at our local hospital. So after I did that, I graduated in June of 2013. I immediately started my prerequisites that coming August of 2013, and so I started with, of course, general ed, because every community college and every university makes you take general ed to transfer or to graduate. So I started taking general ed. I also started taking my prerequisites. Biology was the first one, then I needed to get into anatomy. From anatomy you go to physiology, and of course all of these are with lab, and then physiology go to microbiology. You also need statistics. A lot of nursing programs require you to have like oral communication as a prerequisite done. You need to have some kind of social sciences, so I took psychology, I also took sociology, I also took anthropology. So I started doing my prerequisites, and then I started to talk to more people in the nursing community or that were going into nursing and were currently doing their prerequisites as I was, and they were saying that it's so competitive, that they had been applying for multiple years and couldn't get in. So I immediately knew that I had to have a good GPA to get into nursing school, and so I had been at MiraCosta for about 3 years, and I had completed all my prerequisites, and then I thought, well, I'm probably going to have to compete with high school kids, because high school students can apply immediately from high school to get into a 4-year university for nursing for your bachelor's of science. And so my school had a bridge program to one of the universities in San Diego, and so I looked into it, and their major was child development. Even though I didn't really think that I would like that major, because of all the units that I had, for me it would only be 15 months, and so I was like, okay, that's perfect. If I get my bachelor's in child development, I can apply to an accelerated bachelor's for nursing. So I was like, okay, I will no longer be competing with high school students, because they obviously won't be having a bachelor's, so the competition would be a little bit less. So that was my thought process. So I did that. I got into that program. That's the program that I graduated from December of 2018. But while I was in that program, I was working as a CNA, and I got a job at our local hospital, at one of the hospitals nearby, and I met this girl, and she was like, you know, if you have a bachelor's, you can go straight for your master's. And I was like, no, but my bachelor's is not going to be in nursing. And she's like, yeah, that doesn't matter. And I was like, what? So I immediately started doing research, and I was like, can you get a master's with a bachelor's that is not related to nursing? And they were like, direct entry master's program popped up, and I was like, oh my goodness, like, how come I didn't know about this sooner? And so I started looking at programs. I did months of research, so I had never taken the T's before, so I knew that I needed to either study for the T's or find a program that didn't require the T's. And there are schools out there that don't require the T's, so just make sure that you do your research. Since I was going to be getting my bachelor's of December of 2018, I knew that I had to take the GRE prior to applying to a program, or find a program that didn't require the GRE. And so because the GRE is expensive, you have to pay for it and you have to study for it, I was like, let's just see what's out there without the GRE or the T's. And there are programs out there, so believe me when I say you don't have to take those tests. If you know what school you want to go to and you're like set on that school, and that school requires either the T's or the GRE when you have your bachelor's, then of course, don't change schools just because you don't want to take one silly test. It's completely up to you. It's personal preference. But for my preference, and for me particularly, I didn't want to pay to take GRE or study for it. So I did find schools that didn't require it, which I thought was great. Some schools also don't require an interview, which I thought was another great thing. Like I said, I do live in Southern California, San Diego County, and I was perfectly fine with having to relocate. I'm Mexican, and for you guys that are Mexican, you know how hard it is to like leave at the house. You guys have traditional Mexican parents, you know it's so hard to like look for schools outside of your area because your parents are gonna be like, where? Like, you're going to where? It was a little bit hard to get into to think about schools outside of my area, but I was like, you know what, like if I can't get into schools here. Another thing that I didn't want to wait for is the fall application process, because a lot of schools nearby require you to apply in the fall for the following fall. So let's say I applied fall 2019, I would start fall 2020, and I was like, that is such a waste of my time. I don't want to be waiting around. I just want to start. So I applied to the University of San Francisco, California. They did have a direct entry master's program, and it was at an Orange County campus. So I was like, okay, perfect, I can just commute. Unfortunately, I was waitlisted, and so I didn't get in. And you know, like my fiance was like, well, at least they didn't say no. But I was like, well, they didn't say no, but they didn't say yes either. So technically they said no, like we don't have enough space for you. And so, but to me, that pretty much means like we can't, like there was somebody better than you that we did have space for. So you know what I mean? Like I feel like it wasn't a complete deny, but it was still like a no. Like I still didn't get in because there's not enough space. And so I was like, whatever, like I'll just keep applying, it's fine. Like yes, it sucked, and that was to start January, so the spring of 2019, which would have been perfect for me because I graduated December of 2018. So like I said, I just wanted to start, but I was like, it's fine, what can I do? And so I just kept researching. I kept looking at schools, local and non-local. So I finally found the school that I got into, and let me tell you a little bit about their process. So I was lurking around their website, and then the next day I had an academic advisor call me, and they were like, hi, you know, my name is blah blah, I'm from this particular university, like let me tell you a little bit about it. And so I was like, okay, sure. And usually like I'll kind of like dodge those phone calls because I'm like, well, I'm not ready to apply yet, I was just looking, you know. But since that school had a lot of things that I liked about it, I was like, you know what, sure, like let's talk on the phone. And so she's like, okay, like this program is about 21 months, it's a hybrid program, so like all the lectures are online, but the lab and clinicals are obviously, either the lab is on campus and the clinicals are at the clinical sites. I did use the same essay that I used for the University of San Francisco, California. I just tweaked it a little bit at the end. The essay was pretty much asking you why you wanted to become a nurse and why you're choosing that school in particular. And so I was like, okay, perfect. And it is 2 pages long, double spaced. So the first page was all about why I wanted to become a nurse, or actually the page and a half was why I wanted to become a nurse, and the last page was why I decided to choose that school. Whenever you're applying to grad school or to any school, make sure that you do your research on the school and try to incorporate the school in your essay. Like talk a little bit about what you liked from the school that I'm going to. They had like a clinic that I really liked. It's called Clinic for Women and Children, and it was a community clinic. So I was like, oh my god, that's super cool. I researched on that. I found that clinic, and then I incorporated that clinic in my essay. And when I had my academic advisor read over my essay, she was like, oh, like I see you did some research on our school. And she's like, I really like that. And I was like, okay, that's perfect. I love your essay. I love that you're like straight to the point and then you don't go off track. And I love that you also incorporated that clinic into it. So I did send her my essay so she can review. And then I also sent it to one of my best friends who's currently in grad school so she could review it as well. I did that. The application process allowed 5 letters of recommendation and I submitted 4. I did give them 2 to 3 weeks to get my letter of recommendation in. So I gave them a deadline. Their deadline was January 31st because I wanted to make sure that their deadline was January 28th. A few days before that February deadline for myself, because she didn't tell me an exact date where they would review the application. She just said sometime in like early February. So I was like, okay, February 1st is my deadline. I turned in my essay. I did my application. It was through a website called NursingCast. I made sure to have everything filled out there. I inputted all of my transcripts. I also requested my transcripts ahead of time. I wanted to make sure that NursingCast received them on time, my official transcript. And then I also added like work history, anything that I thought was related to my application. So, and then the school that I applied to also had a supplemental application that she told me that she wanted me to make sure that I filled out with my NursingCast application. So I was like, okay, like I can do that for sure. So I turned everything in January 28th. Or we had talked February 2nd, and she's like, hey, just wanted to make sure, like, how's your application doing? And I was like, oh, I actually just turned it in. She's like, oh, that's so good to hear. Like, I'm glad. I'm not sure when exactly they'll be reviewing the applications, but it should be sometime next week or the week after. So I was like, okay, perfect. And like I said, this was like February 2nd. So then she sent me a text on February 6th. and she's like, hey, like, please don't forget to turn in the supplemental application. Like, they should be reviewing the applications anytime. And so I was like freaking out. I was like, what the heck? Like, I turned it in. Like, of course I didn't tell her this. I just texted her back and I was like, hey, I saw your text. Like, I turned in my supplemental application. Here's the screenshot. Here's the reference number. And I was like on top of it because I was like, I turned everything in. Like, this is my nursing application. Of course I made sure I did everything. Like, so I sent her that. Of course, she didn't respond. So the university that I was applying to was like 2-3 hours ahead. Oh my god, she's probably out of the office. Like, because it was like 4:30 Pacific Standard Time, so that would have been like 7:00 p.m. over there. And so I was like, I'm sure she's gone. Like, but I was like, what the heck? Like, how did they not get my application? I called her like 3 times. She didn't answer. And the next morning came. I called her like 2 times. She still didn't answer. It said that she was out of the office. I was like, oh my goodness. Like, they're not gonna see my application until March. Like, this really sucks because I wanted an early decision, and now I have to like continue researching schools just in case I don't get in. Thinking the worst scenario. Anyway, I didn't hear from her all day or all morning, and then it was like I had gone to break because I was at work, and I got an email from the school and it said, we have made a decision on your application. And I was like freaking out. Like, I couldn't even log into the application because like my hands were shaking. I didn't remember my password. Like, everything was a mess. Like, at this point my heart was beating. Like, I was like, don't cry because you don't even know. And I was like, you got in. Then I was like, what if I didn't get in? Because everybody at work knew that I had applied, since they kept asking me like, how's your application process going? Like, how's your search for schools going? And everybody at work is super, super nice. So I was like, it's good. I turned in my application for this. Like, so they knew that I had been waiting. And so I was like, oh my god, like, what if I don't get in? Now I have to tell people that I didn't get in, like, how embarrassing. And so all this stuff was going through my mind. And then again, my heart was still pounding, my hands were still shaking, like I couldn't get into the freaking application. I finally got into the application. I didn't even read the email. I just like saw, like, the cool thing was that they put like little confetti on the email, and then I just saw like this huge congratulations, and I just lost it. I was like, oh my god. Like, I couldn't yell obviously because I was at work, but I saw the congratulations, and I like walked over to my boss's office. And I was like, I got in. And then I just started bawling, and she like hugged me. She's like, oh my god, let me find a tissue for you. And I was like, it's okay. Like, can I just go outside? Because I was like bawling, like I was shaking. I was ugly crying, whatever. And she's like, yeah, like, go outside. Like, I'll watch the front, because I work the front desk. And she's like, yeah, like, I'll watch the front. So like I went outside. I called my fiance, and he was like, what's going on? Because I was like obviously crying. Like, I couldn't talk. I was like, I got in. I'm pretty sure I sounded pretty bad, but he was like, oh my god, like, I told you. And I was like, I know, but it's not the same. Like, I need to see it. Like, my eyes have to see the application that says you have been accepted, you know? So he was like, yeah, like, I told you. I was like, okay, like, I'll talk to you later. And then I called my sister, and my sister was like, what's going on? I was still crying. And I was like, I got in. And she was like, oh my god, I'm so happy for you. And I was like, thank you. And then she was like, oh my god, but that means you're leaving. And I was like, I know, but I'm so happy. She's like, I know. And then like, because I was so happy, she was happy, and then she was getting emotional because I was crying. And if you guys don't know, she's my twin. So yeah, she was getting emotional, and luckily I caught her on her break, which is nice since she was able to answer. But yeah, like, got myself together, and I went back to work, and then my boss was still smiling, and I was like, okay, I'm better now. And she was like, oh my god, you're fine. And she said, do you want to go tell people? And I was like, yeah. So I just walked around like our office, and I told a few people that I had been already like talking to about my process. You know, they were really happy for me, and they were like, oh, we're gonna miss you. The program starts this fall, so August 2019, and I will be moving from California to Illinois, and I'm so excited. I couldn't be more happy, and like, I can't believe it. Like, I had to read that email like 4 times because I was like, does it say Reina? Like, am I sure? Because I already talked to all these people, and I already told these people that I got in, so I want to make sure that like it actually says like you had been admitted to. And so it said that clearly. And yeah, so I will be moving, and I told my parents that same night when I got off work. I told them that I got in. They were happy, but you know, like, for like Mexican parents are a little bit hard to get them to fully understand like how competitive it is to get into nursing, and like the specific program that I was getting, like that I'm getting into, which is a direct entry master's program. So I was trying to explain to my mom, and she's like, puros enredos, and like it was just really hard to like explain that it's like a specific master's program. It's not a traditional master's program, that there's not that many local, and that it's a lot cheaper, and you know, all that stuff. So I am lucky enough to have my fiance come with me. He graduates in May, so it's just perfect timing, and I'm so excited. So I know this video was long, but if you guys are still here, please comment down below here. That way I know you guys stuck around till the end, and I really hope you guys learned something that can be useful in your guys' nursing journey. So if you guys have any questions for me regarding like my nursing journey and what else I did and anything else that I did to make myself competitive, please leave them down in the comments. I'll be happy to respond, or I'll make another video going in depth or answering your questions. Thank you so much for coming back to my channel, and please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!